Hey dudes, today I want to talk about parallel compression. Now, this is a very common and very professional music mixing technique that's going to make it way easier for you to hear the vocals in your mix. We're going to really fatten and brighten and push those vocals ahead of the instrumentation in your music, and it's going to sound great. So let's jump right into it, listen to an example, and then we'll deconstruct it and build it up from scratch so that you guys can do it on your own. All right, so let's listen to our example. I'm gonna try to help you find your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. Okay, so a little bit hard to hear the vocals. Again, I'm just gonna jump right into it. We'll deconstruct all of this, but here is my send that goes to my parallel compression with a compressor here. And all I'm gonna do is just increase this and you can hear the difference. Try to help you find your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. I'm gonna try to help you find your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. I'm gonna try to help you find your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. Cool, so you saw there that I hit mute, I turned it on and off, I brought it up. It's just clearly obvious to me that now the vocals are just sitting so much more on top of the music. So let's break this down because I think this is going to be a technique that you're going to want to use. So this is just a really simple example where there's just a beat, which is my music one track, just one vocal that I have a very simple traditional compressor that's just kind of taking the tops down of everything, and a very, very simple, nothing fancy EQ on it. But the real magic comes from doing the parallel compression. The send of the track is going to this aux here, and I have this compressor, which is a much more unique compressor that wouldn't really sound good if it was just on the track. So it's an extremely hard limiter. So I started with a preset called hard limiting. So it's 100-to-1 ratio. And then basically what I did is I increased the gain. You could go more than this if you needed to. And I also just kind of set the threshold. I kind of pushed the threshold down and increased the gain up. So really what it's doing a lot of is bringing up the bottom part of the low dynamics of what you're hearing in the voice, and then kind of the blend of the original track and this parallel compression makes a really nice, easy to hear sound with the vocals. Other than that, you know, I just always have a meter track and a final out and stuff like that. You don't have to have any of this other stuff, but now let's actually build all of this from scratch. All right, so the first step will be to create some buses. So I will go to Setup IO, and then we'll click on our bus tab. Again, I am going to do a couple of things here. So I'm going to add several buses. We'll be mixing in stereo, so I'll change all of these to stereo. I'll call one para to make that easy instead of writing out parallel compression. I will do one as meter, and then I will do one as final. So there are the buses I need. You could do this with just the one bus for the parallel compression, but you know, I like to just kind of complete the chain. And there you go. So I'll hit OK. And then we will create the aux tracks. So I'll go Shift Command N to bring up my new tracks view here. We're going to go stereo. I also like to do this. If you hold Command, you can go up and down for the different type of track. So see audio track, if I hit down, it'll go aux input. If I do left and right, it'll change from mono to stereo. If I tab, it'll go over to the name column. So we'll call this our parallel compression. Tab back down, I'll go aux input stereo, and then we'll call this meter. Tab back down, stereo aux, call this final. Okay, we can get out of there. And now I just need to change the inputs and outputs of everything. So I will bus my music and my vocals to the meter. I will call the meter by changing the input to meter. I will bus the meter to final. I will call the final by changing the input to final. And then, of course, my final will go to the speaker, so that's good. Parallel compression, I'm going to call it parallel compression on the input because that's what it is. That will also go to the meter, which will then go to the final. And cool, the routing is good. This is optional, but I like to always make sure everything is pretty and easy for me to understand by color coordinating everything. And then all we got to do is add the compression on the parallel compression aux. So if we go to the insert of parallel compression, you can see here that I've added EQ and this DYN3 compressor limiter as favorites. You can check out my settings and preferences video if you want to learn how to do that. But otherwise you can go to dynamics. And then I'm just going to grab the stock one because, hey, it works and you might have that. If you have another compressor that you want to use, please feel free to use that. And then I'm just going to go to a preset. The one I used earlier was just this hard limiting, and I adjusted it a little bit. There's like fatten or crush or some other things that might be able to work, but I'm going to stick to what I did earlier. So you see that 100-to-1 ratio. Now here's the key that we just got to remember, that if I just increase the gain, you see the threshold and everything is going up. So I think I just increased this by about 9. And then the key to this is that I'm going to want to bring this back down so that it is doing some squashing basically. So here are the settings that I had. You can push this much harder if you'd like to, but the basic idea is that you're going to push the top down and bring the bottom up with gain and threshold, and the ratio is going to be very, very strong. So some version of this will get you going. Okay, I can close this, and then I think the last step is actually just to go to the send. If you don't see the send, you can of course always click on this and then bring the send to life by checking that green arrow there. Then all I got to do is, just like an insert, I click here and I'm going to bus this to the parallel compression like so, and then bada boom. I'm gonna try to help you from your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. I'm gonna try to help you from your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. I'm gonna try to help you from your second guessing. Here's a little song about parallel compression. All right, so that's basically it. Remember, I showed a little bit more than parallel compression in this video. I started off with a regular traditional compressor and a regular traditional EQ on the actual audio track where the vocals were. You should probably still do that. That's a great idea and a first line of defense for everything, where you're kind of pushing everything down and bringing everything into place with compression and EQ, but that's not what the parallel compressor was. Remember, we created another aux track, and then we used a send to send it to that aux track. And on that aux track, we had a really, really hard limited compressor that was pushed up in gain and then also pushed back down with the threshold. So basically, this is really squashing and bringing up the vocals, and the combination of the original audio track and the parallel compression together just made it sing. It made it so easy for us to hear those vocals in the mix, and we really weren't turning up and down anything else. It was just fattening those vocals and making them easier to hear. So I hope you get to use this in all your music mixing endeavors and all your future projects. And until next time, later dudes.